What's up, crafters? It's MindCrafts by Sabrina, where our crafts are anything but square. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make alignment boxes to line up your vinyl when placing it on a project. I'm going to be specifically working on subway tiles in this project. We're also going to be doing this in Inkscape. However, you can follow the same steps if you're going to be working in Design Space. Before we get started, if this is your first time to my channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Starting a new document in Inkscape, I need to make a rectangle, which is going to be my template. Press R on the keyboard, and with your mouse, click, hold, drag, and release to make a rectangle. Select that rectangle and edit the size to equal your project. In my case, I have a 22.5 by 7.5 subway tile. Duplicate that rectangle and make it into a 5.5 square and align it to one of your corners. Duplicate it again and move and align it to an opposite corner, and duplicate it one more time and align it to the edge middle. You can make as many as you want. I'm going with 3. The larger your project, the more registration marks you may want to make. You need 1 registration box for each layer. So I now have 2 sets of registration box, one for my base layer and one for my knockout. Before I continue, I'm going to save my alignment registration box as a template. This way, the next time I need to make a tile, I can start with this template and go straight to creating my names. So I'm going to go to File, click Save As, and then give it a name. I always name it my blank and the size of that blank so that I can easily find them. Your Save As type should also be as an SVG file, so when you upload it into Cricut, it's already in a cut path. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save to save my file. I'm going to create a text box by pressing T on the keyboard, click drag and release on the mouse, and then insert my text. I'm going to edit the font by choosing a font from the font menu, and then sizing my text according to my project. I'm going to align, center it to the black base of my template, and then I'm going to select both the teacher and the welded squares, go to Path, and select Combine. This is going to weld both layers together. I'm going to select my teacher base and I'm going to move it to the bottom. And then I'm also going to select the black base and move that to the bottom. Now I have my second square of yellow welded registration boxes at the top so that I can select it with my next layer. Before creating my knockout names, I'm going to go out to the internet and copy an image of an apple and then paste that image into Inkscape. Now it's only an image, so I need to convert this to a SVG cut path. So I'm going to go to the Path menu and select Trace Bitmap. In this menu, I'm going to leave all defaults the same and simply click OK to convert. Close that box once it's complete, and now my file is an SVG file. I'm going to move it over because it's going to be right on top, and I need to delete that original JPEG image by right-clicking and pressing on Delete. Now, I want my image to be solid. I don't want to have the outline, so I'm going to break it apart by going to the Path menu and selecting Break Apart. Now, if I move it, you can see I have a solid base of the entire image, and then those inner parts have now been separated as well. I don't need those inner parts, so I'm going to select on them and right-click and press Delete. Now I'm ready to start the offset knockout layer. So I'm going to press T again on my keyboard to click, drag, and release and make a text box, type my name, and then in the font menu, select my fonts. Now this is not a cut path yet, it's simply only text. And I know that because it doesn't turn red when I highlight over it. So I'm going to go to Path, select Object to Path, go to Object, select Ungroup, and then go to Path and select Union. And that's going to weld it all together. So now when I highlight over it, it turns red. Now it is ready and it is a one welded layer. Now the I Live Glitter font comes with a little heart embellishment. Because it's for teachers, I wanted to make it a little bit more customized with the apple. So I'm going to weld an apple in its place. I'm going to size it down to 1/2 inch and then duplicate it and cover up every heart in my name. After I've covered them all up, I'll select it all, press Path, and Union to weld them together. I'm going to change the color, press Ctrl D to make a duplicate. This duplicate is now going to be my offset. So I'm going to change the opacity just so I can see the words under it. And on my keyboard, press Ctrl 0, 0, 0. Now you can press Ctrl 0 as many times as you want to be as thick as you want. Now I'm going to center both of them onto my black layer. Clicking simultaneously the shadow and the black base, I'm going to go to Path and select Difference. Now I'll click on the names and the welded squares and go to Path and Union, and then go ahead and change the color back. So now I have both bases. Each of them have their own registration boxes. Once my file is ready, I can save it so that I can upload it into Design Space. Now when you upload it into Design Space, it doesn't save the size that you had in Inkscape. So when I save as, in my name, I'm going to include the final size of my project. This way I don't have to remember or guess what my size was. My Save As type should stay at the defaulted SVG and click Save. So now we need to go into Cricut Design Space in order to upload our SVG file. So I'm going to go to Upload at the left, Upload in the middle, and then I'm going to drag and drop my SVG file. If you get any errors about pattern fills or text elements, just click Continue and import anyway. Because this is an SVG file, I don't get the cleanup screen, and I simply just need to name it, tag it, and click Save. Once it imports, you want to click on that image and select Insert Image to insert onto your canvas. So when I designed this in Inkscape, I designed it using centimeters. Right now my project is under inches, so I need to go to the main menu and change my units in the settings from imperial to metric, and then press Done. Once it's as centimeters, I can now click on my project and change the size accordingly. My entire file is ready to go. I only need to size it. I'm going to hide the base because I don't need that template, and just click Make It to send it to the mat. Once it's on the mat, I have both different layers and both of them have registration marks. Click on Continue in order to follow the prompts on the screen and cut them out of the vinyl. Following the prompts on the Make It menu, I'm using my Explorer, so I'm going to set my dial to vinyl, and then I'm going to load my mat by pressing the blinking arrows. I'll press the green Cricut Go button so that it can begin to cut. Once it's completely cut, you'll be prompted to unload the mat by clicking the blinking arrow again, and then continue the process with your next layer. Leaving it at vinyl, loading your mat, pressing Go, cut your layer out, and then unload. Once it's completely cut with all of your layers, you're going to press Finish to return to the canvas. Now onto the fun part. It's time to assemble. So before I begin, I want to make sure that my surface is clean. So I'm going to just clean it down with an alcohol pad. And then you want to make sure it dries before you continue. So with my red layer, I'm going to just do a regular read, which is peeling away all the excess vinyl. And if you notice, I've cut closely to my layers so that I can save as much vinyl as possible. You may also notice on my right side, I lost one of my registration squares, but that's not going to matter once it comes time to application. With this next layer, I'm going to do a reverse weed. So that is placing my entire transfer tape over the cut vinyl and then burnish it in by rubbing it so that the transfer tape can pick up the vinyl. From the back, I'm going to peel away the vinyl backing and then start peeling all the excess in my design that needs to be peeled away. If you notice, I kept half of the backing folded, and that just helps me so I don't get my hands stuck in the vinyl, making it harder to work with. This method is really great for thin fonts and intricate cuts. And it wasn't until after the fact that I thought about showing you this method. If I thought about it ahead of time, I would have done it with the red layer to show you with those thinner fonts. So now we need to align and place our vinyls onto the tile. Before I start my alignment process, I put my transfer tape backing back onto my vinyl so that it doesn't get stuck to my tile as I'm trying to get it aligned. So I'm going to just peel back the edge and align those 3 registration squares to the corner of my project. Now you can see they come right up to the corners and they align perfectly at the edge. So that auto centers the word teacher on the tile, taking all the guesswork out of it. Now I'm going to just peel the transfer tape back, and as it exposes the vinyl, I'm going to press and rub it into the tile. I do it like this so that it doesn't trap any air under the vinyl, causing air bubbles. Then I'm going to just peel back my transfer tape and then start with the next layer. Now you want to make sure you leave your registration marks on one side so that you can pick it up. I'm going to reuse my transfer tape, and I always reuse it as many times as I can. Doing the same thing, rubbing it on, pulling away that template, and then I'm going to cover it again with my backing. I'm going to just work and get these lined up, and I want to make sure I get them perfectly centered because that is the premise of making sure that the words are centered inside the word teacher. Again, pulling the vinyl apart and making sure I press it all in. Once it's all on there, I'm just going to burnish it in a little bit and then peel back my transfer tape. I had a little trouble with the G, so I'm going to just go back to the other side and meet myself back at the G. Once it's all ready and everything's aligned, you can go ahead and just scrape off the registration marks and you are good to go. You are finished. Additionally, if you want, you can add some kind of backing of your choice so that you can display it. I'm using a phone ring, and I learned that if I place it right in the center, I can use it as a kickstand, or I can flip it all the way up and use it as a hanging stand on the wall. So as I was preparing for this tutorial, I was walking through Dollar Tree trying to get inspiration on some other display options. And here's what I came up with. I picked up a photo frame and I just took out the stand and I hot glued it to the back of my tile. Now it worked like a charm, but from the front, I really didn't like that I can see the square back there. If there's not a lot of lighting, you can't see it too much, and depending on your design, you may not be able to see it too much, but it did bother me. It also added some bulk. However, either way it goes, it worked really well. Another option would be to add magnets. I added 4 magnets to the side, but after I took the picture and tested it out, I realized it was still too heavy, so I added 2 more to the center, making a total of 6 magnets, and it held very well. I'm not sure how maybe a magnet sheet might hold if you covered the whole back thing as a magnet. Remember, these tiles are pretty heavy, and I'm using a 3x9. So those using a 3x12 might even have to use more than that. This option, I like this option for a few reasons. One, it covers the entire back. So if any color did show from the front, it's going to be unison. 2, it adds some protection. So if it does fall backwards, there's no clanking because these are heavy glass tiles after all. So I just took corrugated cardboard, I traced the back out, and then I traced that same photo frame kickstand onto this template, and I just cut that out. So I like that I can fold it and it sits completely flat, so that's a plus. And if I'm shipping it, that also provides some added protection. So a few pluses. I don't like the brown edges where you can see the exposed corrugated board. Maybe if you spray painted it or added some color or maybe even some lacing or something to kind of finesse it up, it might look better. But at the end of the day, it is the back, so it is another option. And last is the one I used in this tutorial, which was a phone ring, also purchased at Dollar Tree. Now this one here, I set it all the way at the bottom, just like the kickstand would be. If you set it like this, it sits very nice when it's standing, and I like the angle that it stands at versus when I set the keyring in the middle. And if I set it all the way at the bottom, I can also flip the keyring down so that it can hang on the wall. The only difference with this method versus putting it in the middle is your image is going to be upside down. So it can only be for an upright image if you're hanging it on the wall, and in the same position if you're going to stand it on a table, then it can stay like this. Whereas if you put it in the center, you have the option of using it as both a kickstand and a wall hook. I really like all these options. However, there are a few more that I thought of. You can use easels, which are very popular at the moment. You can attach some sawtooth clips, and I would probably go with like probably a contact cement or an E6000. And you can also add maybe some kind of twine or string. If you go with that route, then you might have to adjust your project based on where you're adding that twine at. Before I let you go, I just wanted to kind of go over the process one more time and let you see how quickly you can make these alignment registration boxes, even if you're not aligning it to a blank or a template like a tile or a frame or anything. You can also make these registration boxes if you have to layer, let's say, a multiple layered decal. So you can just create multiple registration boxes, one for each color, and then have all those registration boxes on the base. So once you cut out each of your layers, you can then attach your red layer onto its appropriate registration marks and your blue layer, and so on and so on. And then you can go ahead and cut off all your transfer squares, and now your decal is layered and ready to go. Well, guys, that's all I have for you today. Before I let you go, I want to remind you, don't forget to check out the description box. I'll link tutorials to converting SVG files and creating those offset knockout texts. And I have those tutorials in a lot more detail versus this one I kind of went over it very fast. If this is your first time to my channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can be notified the next time I bring some content. As always, if this was helpful, please don't forget to like and share with a crafter friend.